The service entrance lock clicked open on the third try. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the key I'd kept hidden in my wallet for 15 months, tucked behind a photo of Luca. I never showed anyone. I never thought I'd use it. Never thought I'd come back here. But I was out of options. Luca stirred against my chest, his small body warm through the carrier strapped to me. 6 months old. Too young to understand that men with dead eyes had been following us. Too innocent to know his mother had spent the last 6 hours running through back alleys and switching subway lines until my legs gave out and my mind went blank with terror. Most of those hours weren't even in New York. Boston had been a hiding place, until it wasn't. Until a single morning turned my quiet streets into a trap. I ditched my phone, paid cash for a last-minute ticket south, and kept Luca's carrier turned inward so no one could get a clean look at his face. By the time the train dumped me into the city, I was already moving on instinct, switching lines, cutting through alleys, counting exits, praying I could stay one step ahead. I pushed through the door into the kitchen I used to know by heart. Everything looked the same. Marble countertops, stainless steel appliances that reflected dim security lights. The espresso machine I'd used every morning for 3 years sat in the exact same spot. My old life. The one I'd burned to the ground. Luca made a small sound, not quite crying but close. He needed water. I needed to mix his formula. Needed to think. Needed to figure out what the hell I was going to say when Nicholas found me here. If he found me here. The lights flicked on without warning. Blinding. I spun around, shielding Luca's face with my hand. Nicholas stood in the doorway with a gun pointed directly at my head. My breath stopped. Everything stopped. He wore black pajama pants and nothing else. His chest was bare, showing the tattoo that wrapped around his ribs. Dark hair messy like he'd been asleep. Eyes sharp and cold and absolutely lethal. He didn't lower the gun. Didn't blink. Just stared at me like I was a ghost he couldn't decide whether to shoot or exercise. Then his gaze dropped. To the baby carrier. To Luca. The gun lowered. Not much. Just enough. I watched recognition slam into him. Watched his entire body go rigid. Watched his jaw clench so tight I heard his teeth grind from 10 feet away. Samantha. My name came out rough. Broken. Like he'd been saying it in his head for months. And finally had permission to speak it aloud. I couldn't respond. My throat had closed up. All I could do was stand there holding our son, while the man I'd run from stared at us both like we'd just rewritten his entire existence. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Security. 3 men in tactical gear burst into the kitchen, weapons drawn. Nicholas raised one hand without looking at them. They froze mid-step. Out. His voice cut through the air like a blade. Boss, we heard. Out. Now. They retreated. The door closed. Silence rushed back in, heavier than before. Nicholas finally holstered the gun at the small of his back. His eyes hadn't left Luca. Not once. How old? Not a question. A demand. 6 months. His jaw worked. Math happening behind those dark eyes. 15 months since I'd disappeared. 9 months of pregnancy. 6 months of life I'd stolen from him. Luca shifted in the carrier, making that small, unhappy sound again. Nicholas's attention sharpened. He needs water. I said quietly. I need to make a bottle. I wouldn't have come here if I had anywhere else to go. Why are you here? They found us. My voice cracked. The triad. They've been following me. 6 hours ago they left photos at my apartment. Photos of Luca. With messages. What kind of messages? I reached into my jacket pocket slowly, pulled out the envelope they'd taped to my door. Threw it onto the counter between us. Nicholas moved forward, fast and silent. Picked it up. Read it. His expression didn't change, but his knuckles went white around the paper. They want to use him against you, I whispered. I don't know how they found out. I was so careful. I never told anyone. I changed my name. I moved to Boston. I worked from home. I never went anywhere that... How long have they been watching you? I don't know. The photos are from different places, different months. They've been tracking me for a while. He pulled out his phone, pressed one button. Someone answered immediately. Sweep the property, full perimeter. Check every entrance. Double the guards at every access point. No one gets in or out without my direct authorization." He paused. "And get Dominic up here. Now." He ended the call. Looked at me again. At Luca. "Come here." I hesitated. "Samantha, bring him here." I walked forward on legs that barely worked. Stopped 3 feet away. Close enough to see the pulse hammering in Nicholas's throat. Close enough to smell the faint scent of his cologne mixed with sleep and adrenaline. He reached out slowly. Not toward me, toward Luca. Luca's eyes had opened. Big and dark and exactly like his father's. He stared up at Nicholas with that serious baby expression that always made my chest ache. Nicholas's hand trembled. Just slightly. Just enough for me to notice. "Can I?" His voice broke. He cleared his throat. Tried again. "Can I touch him?" Something inside me shattered. This man. This dangerous, ruthless, terrifying man. Asking permission to touch his own son. Yes. Nicholas's fingers brushed against Luca's cheek. Feather light. Reverent. Like he was touching something sacred he didn't deserve. Luca turned his head toward the touch. Opened his mouth. Made a small cooing sound. Nicholas's breathing changed. Got uneven. "His name," he whispered. "Luca. Luca Bellini." His eyes snapped to mine. "You gave him my name. He's your son. You left." The words came out harsh, accusatory. "You disappeared without a word. I looked for you. I searched for 6 months straight. I thought you were dead. I thought someone had taken you. I thought—" He stopped, jaw clenching. "And you were what?" "Living in Boston, pregnant, having my child. Alone. I was protecting him. From what? From this." I gestured at the house, at him, at everything. From men with guns. From enemies who would use him to hurt you. From a world where people get killed over territory and money and power. You don't get to make that choice alone. I made the only choice I could. Bullshit. He stepped closer. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to hold his gaze. You ran because you were scared. Not of me. Of what it would mean to stay. He was right. I hated that he was right. Luca started fussing again. Louder this time. Real crying. "He's hungry," I said. "And tired. We've been running all day. I need to feed him. I need to—" "Upstairs. Guest room. 2nd floor. East wing. Nicholas, you're not leaving." His voice dropped to something dangerous. Something absolute. "Not tonight. Not until we deal with the triad. Not until I figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do with the fact that I have a son I knew nothing about. I'm not asking to stay. I don't care what you're asking. You came here. You brought him here. That makes you both my responsibility. We're not your—" "Yes, you are." He leaned in, close enough that I felt his breath against my face. "Every person who steps into my territory falls under my protection. You know that. You worked for me for 3 years. You know exactly how this works." I did know. That was the problem. "The triad won't stop," I said quietly. "They know about Luca now. They'll keep coming. Let them." His eyes went cold, empty. "I'll kill every single one of them before they get within a mile of my son." My son. He'd already claimed Luca. Completely. Irrevocably. Footsteps approached again. A man appeared in the doorway. Tall, armed, looking between Nicholas and me with barely concealed shock. "Boss, perimeter is secure. I've got teams checking—" He stopped mid-sentence when he saw Luca. "Is that—" "Dominic. Take Samantha upstairs. Guest room. Make sure it's secure. Post 2 guards outside the door. Get whatever she needs for the baby. Food. Supplies. Everything. Boss, I need to brief you on—" "Do it. Now." Dominic nodded once. Looked at me. "This way, Miss Wells." I didn't move. Couldn't stop staring at Nicholas. At the way he was looking at Luca. Like he was memorizing every detail. Like he was afraid we'd disappear again if he blinked. "Samantha." His voice softened. Just barely. "Go. Get him settled. I'll handle the security situation. We'll talk after." "About what?" "Everything." He finally looked at me again. "About why you left. About why you came back. About what happens next. About him." Luca had quieted down, staring at Nicholas with wide eyes. like he recognized something, like some part of him knew. I turned and followed Dominic out of the kitchen. Up the stairs, down hallways I used to walk every day, past rooms I used to clean and organize, and pretend belonged to a normal life. The guest room was massive. King bed, private bathroom, windows overlooking the garden I'd helped plan 2 years ago. "I'll be right outside," Dominic said. "Anything you need, just ask." "Thank you." He left. The door closed, and suddenly I was alone with Luca in Nicholas Bellini's house, exactly where I'd sworn I'd never be again. I unstrapped the carrier, lifted Luca out. He was crying again, for real this time. Exhausted and hungry and overwhelmed. "I know, baby," I whispered, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I pulled out the bottle I'd mixed hours ago. Lukewarm now, but he didn't care. He latched on immediately, drinking fast, his little hands curling into fists. Downstairs I heard voices, orders being given, security protocols activating, the machine of Nicholas's world grinding into motion to protect us, to protect his son. I looked down at Luca, at his dark hair, his serious eyes, the way his tiny fingers gripped my thumb while he ate. He looked so much like his father, it hurt. I'd spent 6 months trying to convince myself that leaving had been the right choice, that raising Luca alone and safe was better than raising him here, surrounded by danger. But tonight, when those men had found us, when I'd seen their faces and their cameras and their threats, I'd known the truth. I couldn't protect him alone. Not from this, not from Nicholas's world. So I'd come back, to the one man I'd spent 15 months trying to forget. The one man who could keep our son safe. The one man I'd never stopped loving. Luca fell asleep 20 minutes after I fed him. I laid him down in the center of the massive bed, surrounded by pillows like a fortress. He looked impossibly small against the white sheets. Vulnerable. Innocent. Everything I'd tried to protect him from was happening anyway. I sat on the floor with my back against the bed, knees pulled to my chest, listening to the sounds of Nicholas's house coming alive around me. Footsteps in hallways, radios crackling, orders being executed with military precision. The door opened without a knock. Nicholas stepped inside and closed it behind him. He'd put on a black t-shirt, but his feet were still bare. His hair was pushed back from his face, revealing the sharp angles I used to watch when I thought he wasn't looking. He glanced at the bed, at Luca sleeping peacefully. "Is he okay?" "He's exhausted. We both are." Nicholas walked closer. Not to me, to the bed. He stood there for a long moment, just staring at our son. His hands opened and closed at his sides like he didn't know what to do with them. "He has my eyes," he said quietly. "I know. My hair." "Yes. Does he?" He stopped, started again. "What's he like when he's awake?" The question hit me harder than it should have. He was asking because he didn't know, because I'd stolen that from him. He's serious. He doesn't smile much yet, but when he does, it's everything. He likes being held. He doesn't like loud noises. He's starting to reach for things, grab things. He found his feet last week, and now he's obsessed with them. Nicholas listened to every word like I was handing him pieces of gold. Does he cry a lot? Only when he's hungry or tired. He's actually really calm. Almost too calm sometimes. Like me. Yes. Like you. Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Loaded. Nicholas finally looked at me. Really looked at me. Not at Luca. Not at the situation. At me. "We need to talk. Downstairs. Dominic will stay outside the door. Luca will be safe." I didn't argue. I stood up slowly, my body aching from hours of running, followed him out of the room. Down the hallway. Down the stairs. Into his office. The same office where I used to bring him coffee every morning. Where I'd organize his files and take his calls and pretend my hands didn't shake every time he stood too close. He closed the door. Locked it. Walked to the bar and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Handed me one. "I don't drink anymore. Not since you got pregnant." His voice was flat. "With my child. The one you never told me about." I set the glass down. "I'm not here to defend myself." "Then why are you here?" "I told you. The triad found us. That's why you came back, not why you left. I looked at him, at the tension in his shoulders, at the way his jaw was locked tight, at the fury he was barely controlling. You want to have this conversation now? Tonight? While there are men out there who want to hurt our son? Yes, I want to have it now. Because I've been waiting 15 months for answers and you're finally standing in front of me. Fair enough. I took a breath, let it out slow. 15 months ago. That night. After the deal with the Russians. When you almost got shot. I remember. You came back to the house covered in blood. Not yours. You were shaking. I'd never seen you shake before. His eyes darkened. You brought me water. Sat with me until I calmed down. You talked. You never talked to me before. Not really. But that night you told me things. About your father. About how you inherited this life. About how everyone around you wanted something from you except me. I meant it. I know. That's what scared me. I wrapped my arms around myself. You looked at me like I was the only real thing in your world. And then you kissed me. You kissed me back. I did. And we spent the night together. And it was, my voice cracked. It was the best night of my life, and the worst. Because when I woke up next to you, all I could think about was what happened next. Nicholas moved closer. Not touching me. Just closer. What do you mean? You live in a world where people die, Nicholas. Where enemies come to your house. Where negotiations happen with guns on the table. I'd watched it for 3 years. Watched you bury friends. Watched you come home bleeding. Watched you turn cold because that's the only way to survive. You knew what I was when you started working for me. Knowing something and living it are different things. When it was just me, I could handle it. I could keep my distance, stay professional. But that night changed everything. Because suddenly I wasn't just your assistant anymore. I was someone you'd been vulnerable with. Someone you'd let in. And that terrified you. Yes, I met his gaze. 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. And I had to choose. Stay here and raise a child in this world. Or leave and give him a chance at something normal. So you ran. I protected him. Nicholas's hand shot out, gripping the edge of his desk so hard his knuckles went white. You protected him from me. No. I protected him from this. I gestured at the office. At the house. At everything it represented. From the men who would use him against you. From the enemies who would target him to hurt you. From a life where he'd grow up watching his father leave every day, not knowing if he'd come back. That wasn't your decision to make alone. What was I supposed to do? Come to you and say I'm pregnant, what's your plan? You would have locked me in this house, put guards on me, treated me like an asset instead of a person. I would have protected you, by making me a prisoner, by keeping you alive. He turned to face me fully. You think I don't know what you did? You moved to Boston, changed your name, got a job as a freelance editor under Sarah Mitchell, rented a studio apartment in Dorchester, cut contact with your sister Ashley, told her you were traveling Europe when really you were 20 minutes from giving birth in a hospital alone. My stomach dropped. How do you? I found you, 3 months after you disappeared. I had your location, your new name, everything. The room tilted. You found me? I found you, and I made a choice, to let you go. I couldn't breathe. Why? Because you wanted out. You'd made it clear by leaving. And He stopped. His jaw worked. I told myself if you wanted to be free of me that badly, I'd give you that, even if it killed me. Tears burned behind my eyes. I didn't want to be free of you. I wanted to be free of the danger. There's no difference. They're the same thing. He was right. They were the same thing. Being with Nicholas meant accepting the violence, accepting the risk, accepting that any day could be the last. I couldn't do it, I whispered. I couldn't watch you die, and I couldn't let Luca grow up watching it either. So you took him away from me entirely. 15 months. 15 months where I didn't know my son existed. 15 months where I thought, his voice broke. I thought you were happy somewhere. Safe. Starting over. And all that time you were raising my child alone. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back the first 6 months of his life. Sorry doesn't let me hold him when he was born. Sorry doesn't let me hear his first sounds or see him smile for the first time or... He stopped, breathed hard. You had no right. I had every right. He's my son, too. And mine. Nicholas moved so fast I didn't have time to react. He was in front of me, hands gripping my shoulders, eyes burning into mine. He's mine, Samantha. You don't get to decide I'm not fit to be his father just because my world is dangerous. You don't get to erase me. I wasn't trying to erase you. Then what were you doing? Surviving. The word came out broken. I was surviving, trying to give him the safest life I could, even if it meant you weren't in it. His grip tightened, then loosened, then dropped completely. He stepped back, running both hands through his hair. The triad, he said finally. Tell me everything. I told him. About the photos taped to my door. About the men I'd seen following me for the past week. About the feeling of being watched that I'd tried to convince myself was paranoia. They want leverage, Nicholas said. They're moving on the port territory. They need something to force my hand. Will it work? He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Do you really think I'm going to let anyone touch my son? What about me? The question hung between us. Dangerous. Important. You're the mother of my child, Nicholas said slowly. That puts you under my protection. Permanently. Whether you like it or not. I'm not asking you to. I don't care what you're asking. This is how it works. You came back. You brought Luca back. That makes you both mine to protect. For how long? Until the threat is eliminated. And after that? His eyes met mine. Cold. Final. After that, we figure out custody. Visitation. Whatever keeps Luca safe and gives him what he needs. Which is? Both of his parents. The words hit me like a physical blow. Both of his parents. Not me alone. Not him alone. Both. I don't know how to do this, I admitted quietly. Neither do I, but we don't have a choice anymore. He moved toward the door, unlocked it, paused with his hand on the handle. You stay here, in this house, until I say otherwise. You don't leave. You don't contact anyone. You do exactly what I tell you to keep Luca safe. Understood? Nicholas, do you understand? I swallowed hard. Yes. Good. He opened the door. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start dealing with the triad. And after that, he looked back at me. After that, you and I are going to have a much longer conversation about the last 15 months. He left. The door closed behind him. And I stood there in his office, shaking, not from fear, from the realization that I'd just walked back into Nicholas Bellini's life and handed him everything, including my heart. Again. The first morning in Nicholas's house. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to close. Luca was still asleep beside me, peaceful and unaware that our entire world had shifted overnight. Someone knocked softly on the door. I pulled the sheet higher, suddenly aware I was still wearing yesterday's clothes. Wrinkled, dirty, smelling like rain and fear. Come in. A woman in her 50s entered carrying a tray. I recognized her immediately. Maria. The housekeeper who'd trained me when I first started working here 4 years ago. Miss Samantha. Her eyes were warm but cautious. Mr. Bellini asked me to bring you breakfast. And these. She set down the tray and held up shopping bags. Clothes for you and the baby. He wasn't sure of sizes, so he ordered several options. I stared at the bags. At least 6 of them. Designer labels I recognized from organizing his closet. That's not necessary. He insisted. Maria glanced at Luca. Beautiful baby. He has his father's eyes. Everyone kept saying that. Like it wasn't obvious. Like Luca was anything other than a miniature version of Nicholas Bellini. Thank you, Maria. She left quietly. I got up, checked the bags. Baby clothes in various sizes. Diapers. Formula. Bottles. Everything I'd left behind in my panicked flight from Boston. Everything I'd need to stay here for more than a day. He was planning on keeping us here. Making it comfortable. Making it impossible to leave. I fed Luca, changed him, dressed him in new clothes that were softer than anything I could have afforded. By the time I finished, it was almost 9. Late for me. I'd spent 6 months operating on a newborn schedule where 9 felt like afternoon. When I opened the door, Dominic was leaning against the opposite wall. "Morning. Boss wants to see you. Bring the baby." "Where is he?" "Downstairs. Main living room." I followed him down, carrying Luca against my shoulder. The house looked different in daylight. Brighter. More exposed. I could see the upgrades that had happened since I left. New security panels. Reinforced doors. Cameras in corners I didn't remember. Nicholas stood by the windows overlooking the garden. He wore dark jeans and a gray sweater. Casual. I'd rarely seen him casual. He turned when he heard us enter. His eyes went straight to Luca. Did he sleep? Most of the night. He woke up twice for bottles. "You should have called someone. You don't have to do it alone anymore." The words landed strange. You don't have to do it alone anymore. Like he was already taking ownership. Already inserting himself into routines I'd built without him. I'm used to it. That's the problem. He moved closer. Not to me. To Luca. "Can I hold him?" My arms tightened instinctively. Protective. Irrational. Nicholas noticed. Of course he noticed. He noticed everything. "I'm not going to hurt him, Samantha." "I know. I stopped. Took a breath. He doesn't know you yet. Then he needs to learn." Nicholas held out his arms. Confident. Patient. Waiting. I transferred Luca carefully. Supported his head. Made sure Nicholas had him secure before I let go completely. Nicholas held our son like he was made of glass. Arms stiff. Body tense. Like he was terrified of dropping him or breaking him or doing something wrong. Luca stared up at him. Silent. Studying this stranger with serious dark eyes. "Hi," Nicholas said quietly. Awkwardly. He stopped. Started again. "I'm Nicholas. I'm your father." Hearing him say it out loud broke something in my chest. Luca made a small sound. Not crying. Just a noise. Nicholas's entire face transformed. Not a smile exactly. Something deeper. Something that looked like wonder and terror and love all at once. "He's so small," Nicholas whispered. "He's actually big for his age. 9 pounds at birth. 17 now. Did you—" He swallowed hard. "Were you alone when he was born?" "Yes." His jaw clenched. "That shouldn't have happened. It did happen, and we survived. You shouldn't have had to just survive." He looked down at Luca again. "Neither of you should have." I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to explain that survival had felt like victory at the time. That every day Luca and I made it through healthy and safe felt like winning. Nicholas spent the next 20 minutes just holding Luca, walking slowly around the room, talking to him in Italian. Words I didn't fully understand but recognized as gentle, soft. Nothing like the voice he used to give orders. When Luca started fussing, Nicholas handed him back immediately, reluctant, like he wanted more time but understood the baby came first. "He's hungry," I said. "I need to feed him." "Do it here. Stay." So I sat on the couch and fed Luca while Nicholas watched. Not creepy, not invasive, just fascinated. Like he couldn't believe this was real. "What does he eat?" Nicholas asked. "Formula. I stopped breastfeeding at 4 months. It was too hard while working." "You were working?" "Freelance editing, from home, under a fake name. I had to pay rent somehow." He processed that. "Were you—" He stopped, restarted. "Did you have help? Friends? Family?" "No. Ashley thinks I'm in Europe. I cut contact with everyone else." "You did it completely alone?" "Yes." He looked at Luca nursing contentedly. "That's over now. You have help. You have me." The next few days unfolded in a strange routine. Nicholas had meetings in his office. Business to conduct. Orders to give. But he appeared constantly throughout the day. During Luca's morning nap. During afternoon tummy time. During evening baths. Always hovering. Always watching. Learning. On the 3rd day, I was changing Luca on the bed when Nicholas knocked and entered without waiting for permission. He was carrying a book. Several books, actually, stacked in his arms. "I've been reading," he announced. I glanced at the titles. Child Development, Baby Milestones, What to Expect the First Year. You bought parenting books? I needed to catch up. He set them down on the nightstand. Did you know babies can recognize faces at 2 months? And they develop object permanence around 6 months? Luca should be starting to understand that things exist even when he can't see them. I stared at him. You memorized developmental milestones? I've been reading since you arrived. I need to know what I missed. What he can do now. What's coming next? Something warm and painful twisted in my chest. He was studying, preparing, trying to compress 15 months of learning into 3 days. Nicholas? Does he roll over yet? He just started. A few weeks ago. Back to front only. He hasn't figured out front to back. And sitting? Not yet. Maybe another month or 2. He nodded, absorbing every detail like it was mission-critical information. What about his schedule? When does he nap? How long? How often does he eat? I told him everything. Wake times, sleep cues, how to tell the difference between tired crying and hungry crying, how he liked being bounced when he was fussy, how he hated being too hot but loved being swaddled tight. Nicholas listened to all of it, took mental notes, asked follow-up questions that showed he was actually paying attention. I want to help, he said finally, with everything. Feeding, changing, whatever he needs. I want to learn. Okay, show me how to change a diaper. So I did. Walked him through the steps. How to lift Luca's legs. How to wipe properly. How to fasten the diaper snug but not too tight. Nicholas followed every instruction with intense concentration, like he was disarming a bomb instead of changing a 6-month-old. When he finished, he looked absurdly proud. Did I do it right? Perfect. He smiled. A real smile. Small but genuine. The first I'd seen since coming back. That night, around 2 a.m, Luca woke up screaming. Not normal crying. Pain crying. The kind that made my heart stop. I grabbed him. Tried everything. Rocking, bouncing, singing. Nothing worked. He kept crying, pulling his legs up to his chest. Colic, gas, something hurting him. The door opened. Nicholas appeared in pajama pants and nothing else, hair messy from sleep. What's wrong? I don't know. He won't stop. I think it's his stomach. Nicholas crossed the room in 3 strides. Let me try. I handed Luca over, desperate for anything that might help. Nicholas laid him down on the bed gently, placed one large hand on Luca's tiny stomach, started massaging in slow circles, clockwise. Firm, but gentle pressure. I read about this, Nicholas said quietly. Gas relief massage. The pressure helps move air through their system. He kept going, patient, methodical. Luca's crying gradually decreased, turned into whimpers, then stopped entirely. 5 minutes later, Luca let out a massive burp and went quiet. Content. His little face relaxed. I almost cried from relief. Nicholas picked him up, held him against his chest. Luca's head rested on his shoulder. His eyes started drooping. How did you know to do that? I whispered. Chapter 7. Common Discomforts and Solutions. He looked down at Luca. I read all of them. Multiple times. I needed to be ready. Ready for what? For this, for him, for whatever he needs. His eyes met mine, dark and serious. I missed 6 months. I can't get that back, but I can make sure I don't miss anything else. Watching Nicholas hold our sleeping son, seeing the careful way he supported his head, the protective curve of his body, the absolute devotion in his expression, I felt something crack open inside me. This was what I'd been afraid of. This connection. This bond. Not because it was bad, but because it made leaving impossible. The rest of the first week passed in a blur of new routines. Nicholas rearranged his schedule around Luca. Morning meetings happened during naps. Phone calls got cut short when the baby woke up. Business that used to consume him became secondary to watching his son discover his hands. By day 7, they had their own rhythm. Nicholas did morning diaper changes. I did feedings. He did afternoon playtime while I showered or napped. We took turns with evening bath time, like we were a family, like we'd been doing this together from the beginning. One evening, I came downstairs to find Nicholas on the living room floor. Luca was on his back on a blanket, kicking his legs. Nicholas lay beside him, propped on one elbow, watching. He smiled, Nicholas said without looking at me. A real smile, not gas. I was talking to him and he smiled. He's been doing that for a few weeks now. But he smiled at me. He sounded odd, humbled. His first smile with me. I sat down beside them. Watched Luca grab his feet and shove them toward his mouth. Watched Nicholas laugh softly when Luca made happy baby noises. "You're good at this," I said quietly. "At what?" "Being his father." Nicholas went still. "I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go. That's what parenting is. None of us know what we're doing. We just try not to break them. I won't break him." He reached out. Let Luca grab his finger. "I'll protect him from everything, everyone, for the rest of my life." I believed him. That was the terrifying part. I believed Nicholas Bellini would burn the entire world down if it meant keeping Luca safe. "He needs you," Nicholas said, still watching Luca. "You're his mother. You're everything to him. But he needs me too. And his voice roughened. I need him. I didn't know what was missing until I saw him, but now I do, and I can't lose it. I can't lose either of you." The words hung in the air between us. Heavy, true, impossible to take back. I wanted to tell him he wouldn't lose us. Wanted to promise we'd figure this out somehow, but I didn't know how to make promises I couldn't guarantee keeping. So instead, I watched our son play with his father's hand. Watched Nicholas's face soften in ways I'd never seen before. Watched a ruthless mafia boss turn into someone gentle and careful and completely devoted. And I wondered if leaving had ever really been an option at all. The second week started with a routine that felt almost normal. Almost. If you ignored the armed guards at every entrance. If you ignored the security cameras tracking every movement. If you ignored the fact that we were essentially prisoners in a gilded cage. Luca didn't notice any of it. He was happy. Fed. Safe. Learning to love his father. I was the one who couldn't relax. Who jumped at every unexpected sound. Who checked the windows obsessively even though I knew Dominic and his team had the perimeter locked down. Nicholas noticed. He always noticed. "You need to eat more," he said at breakfast on day 8. Luca was in a bouncer seat between us, gnawing on a teething ring. "You've barely touched anything since you got here. I'm not hungry." "You're anxious." "Of course I'm anxious. There are people out there who want to hurt our son, and there are 20 armed men between them and him. Stop worrying." Easy for him to say. He'd lived with this kind of threat his entire life. I hadn't. I'd spent 6 months believing distance would keep us safe. Now I knew better. The delivery truck arrived at noon. Standard weekly supply run. Food, household goods. Baby supplies I'd requested through Maria. I watched from the upstairs window as 2 of Nicholas's men inspected it. Routine. Normal. Except it wasn't. 15 minutes later, Dominic burst into the living room where I was playing with Luca on the floor. His face was grim. "Where's the boss?" "Office." "Why?" "What's wrong?" He didn't answer. Just pulled out his radio and spoke rapidly in Italian. 2 more guards appeared, positioning themselves at the doors. My stomach dropped. "Dominic." "What happened?" "Stay here. Don't leave this room." He disappeared. I heard footsteps, shouting. The house erupting into controlled chaos. I grabbed Luca, held him against my chest. He made a confused sound, sensing my fear. "It's okay, baby. It's okay." Nicholas appeared in the doorway 5 minutes later. His face was carved from stone. Cold. Lethal. The man I'd seen in business negotiations. The man who made people disappear. He was carrying a manila envelope. "What is that?" I asked. He didn't answer. Just crossed the room and handed it to me. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. All of me. Me 7 months pregnant, walking out of my Boston apartment. Me at a prenatal checkup. Me at the grocery store with a newborn Luca in a carrier. Me at the park 2 months ago, pushing a stroller. Me feeding Luca on a bench last week. Different locations. Different months. Different seasons. It felt like they'd been watching me forever. Like the moment I tried to disappear, they were already there. I didn't know how far back it truly went. only that they had Luca in their sights. Oh God, the envelope slipped from my hands. Photos scattered across the floor. They knew the whole time. Nicholas knelt beside me, started gathering the photos with controlled movements. The package was in the supply truck, hidden under the floorboards. They wanted us to find it. Why? What do they want? Leverage. He stood, photos clenched in his fist. There's a note. They want a meeting. They want to negotiate territory. And they're making it clear they know exactly what to threaten if I don't comply. The port. Yes, the shipping routes I control. They've been trying to move in for months. I've blocked them at every turn. His jaw clenched. Now they think they have a way to force my hand. I looked down at Luca, at his innocent face, at his complete trust that I'd keep him safe. What are you going to do? Handle it. That's not an answer. Nicholas's eyes met mine. Dark. Dangerous. I'm going to find every single member of the triad cell that's been following you. And I'm going to eliminate them. Permanently. That's insane. You can't just... Yes, I can. He moved to the window, phone already in his hand. Dominic, get everyone in the conference room. Now. I want locations on every triad operative in the city. I want surveillance on their safe houses. I want everything. He paced while he talked, giving orders in English and Italian, mobilizing his entire organization, preparing for war. I sat on the floor with Luca, watching, terrified, because this was my fault. I'd brought this danger here. I'd led them straight to Nicholas. How long have they known? I asked when he ended the call. About me and Luca. About the connection to you. Nicholas was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out his phone again, scrolled through something. I had my tech team trace the metadata on these photos. Most are recent, within the last month, but some are older, from when I was pregnant. Those were taken from public sources. Security footage from your apartment building, traffic cameras. They went back and collected them after they identified you. He looked up. 3 weeks ago, one of their informants was reviewing old security footage from this property. Routine surveillance they do on all the major families. He saw you, recognized you from more recent surveillance they'd been running in the North End, made the connection. So they didn't know about Luca from the beginning? No. They tracked you retroactively, pulled rental records, apartment applications, built a timeline, realized you disappeared right around the time you stopped working for me. Put it together. His voice went cold. They've been actively watching you for 3 weeks, planning, waiting for the port conflict to escalate. Then they made their move. 3 weeks. Not 15 months. The relief was tiny but real. They hadn't been tracking my entire pregnancy. Hadn't been waiting that long. But 3 weeks was long enough. Long enough to learn my routines. Long enough to know I was vulnerable. Long enough to follow me here when I ran. This is my fault, I whispered. I led them right to you. No. They would have found us eventually. That's how this works. But Samantha. He knelt in front of me. This is not your fault. You were trying to protect Luca. You didn't know they were watching. None of this is on you. Then why does it feel like it is? He didn't have an answer for that. Nicholas spent the next 4 hours in his office. I could hear him through the walls. Voice low and dangerous. Orders being given. Resources being mobilized. Plans being made. I stayed in the living room with Luca. Fed him. Changed him. Played with him. Pretended the world outside wasn't falling apart. Maria brought dinner. I couldn't eat it. By 11, Luca was asleep in his crib upstairs. I was pacing the hallway outside his door. Guards at both ends. Cameras watching. But I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't safe. That nowhere was safe. I went to check on him for the 3rd time in an hour. Stood by the crib. Watched his chest rise and fall. So small. So defenseless. The panic hit without warning. Chest tight. Breath short. Vision narrowing. I stumbled out of the room. Made it to the hallway before my legs gave out. Slid down the wall, gasping. Trying to breathe. Trying to think. Trying to do anything except feel the crushing weight of terror. Footsteps. Running. Then Nicholas was there, kneeling in front of me. Samantha, look at me. I couldn't focus, couldn't breathe. His hands gripped my shoulders. Look at me. Now. I forced my eyes to his. Dark, steady, anchoring. Breathe, he ordered. In through your nose, out through your mouth. With me, he demonstrated. I tried to follow, failed, tried again. Again, in, out. Stay with me. We breathed together. His hands solid on my shoulders, his eyes locked on mine, pulling me back from the edge, slowly, gradually. The panic receded. My breathing evened, my vision cleared. There you go, Nicholas said quietly. You're okay. I'm not okay. None of this is okay. They were watching us. They have photos of my baby. They know where we are. Samantha, stop. I looked at him, at the absolute certainty in his expression. Nothing is going to happen to him, Nicholas said, voice low, final, or to you. Do you understand me? Nothing. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. His hands tightened on my shoulders. I have 20 men on this property, 50 more on call. Every resource I possess is dedicated to finding the people who threatened my son. And when I find them, his eyes went cold, empty. They will regret every photo they took, every moment they watched you, every second they thought about using Luca against me. Nicholas. They wanted a war. They'll get one. But it won't be the war they expected. It'll be over before they realize they lost. He stood, pulling me up with him. We were close. Too close. His hands still on my shoulders. My hands somehow on his chest. Breathing his air. You came to me for protection, Nicholas said quietly. That's what you'll get. Total. Absolute. Protection. For as long as you need it. I didn't come here to start a war. I know. You came here because you were out of options. Because you were terrified. Because I was the only person who could keep Luca safe. He leaned in, close enough that his breath warmed my cheek. And I will. No matter what it costs. My heart hammered. From the panic attack, from his proximity, from the raw intensity in his eyes. Thank you. I whispered, meaning it. Genuinely grateful for the first time since arriving. His expression softened, just slightly. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You didn't have to help us. You could have turned us away, could have told me to deal with it myself. But you didn't. You're the mother of my child. There was never a question of whether I'd help. The only question was how fast I could eliminate the threat. We stood there, inches apart, his hands warm on my shoulders. My hands pressed against his chest, feeling his heartbeat. Strong. Steady. Real. I'm sorry, I said. For running. For taking him away from you. For all of it. We'll deal with that later. Right now I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Could I? Trust the man I'd run from? Trust him with our son's life? Trust him with mine? I looked into his eyes. Saw the promise there. The absolute conviction. The ruthless determination to protect what was his. Yes, I said. I trust you. His eyes darkened. Then go to bed. Get some rest. Tomorrow I start hunting. And when I find them, he paused. You won't have to worry about the triad anymore. He stepped back, hands dropping, distance returning. I watched him walk away, back to his office, back to war planning, back to being the dangerous man who ran this city through fear and power. But for just a moment, in that hallway, he'd been something else, something protective and solid and safe. And I'd believed every word he said. 3 weeks inside Nicholas's mansion, and I'd stopped counting days. Started counting moments instead. Luca's first laugh. Nicholas teaching him to track objects with his eyes. The way our son reached for his father now without hesitation. We'd fallen into rhythms I hadn't planned on. Morning coffee while Luca had tummy time. Shared meals where Nicholas cut my food without being asked because I was holding the baby. Evenings where we took turns reading to Luca, even though he was too young to understand. Like we were a unit. Like we'd never been broken. Nicholas was different now. Softer around the edges. He still disappeared into his office for hours, still took calls in Italian that ended with terse commands. But he always came back, always checked on Luca, always looked at me like he was making sure we were still real. On the afternoon of day 21, I was in the library. Luca had just gone down for his nap. I'd grabbed a book I had no intention of reading and curled up in the armchair by the window. Exhausted, wired, trapped between gratitude and restlessness. The door opened. Nicholas walked in carrying a folder and his tablet. He'd been in back-to-back meetings all morning. I could see the tension in his shoulders. He sat down across from me, didn't speak immediately. Just set the folder on the coffee table between us. "What's that?" I asked. "Updates. On the triad." He opened it, turned it so I could see. Surveillance photos, names, locations crossed out in red. "We've taken down 2/3 of their operation. The cells that were watching you. The informants who identified the connection. The men who left those photos." My stomach tightened. "Taken down?" "Arrested. Turned over to federal authorities. Some chose not to cooperate." His voice was flat, clinical. "We're close to finishing this. Another week, maybe 2. Then it's over. Over." The word landed strange, heavy. "What happens then?" I asked quietly. "You're free to leave. Go back to Boston. Go wherever you want, with full security detail until we're certain there's no residual threat. Leave. Back to my tiny apartment. Back to being alone with Luca. Back to the life I'd built without Nicholas." The thought made my chest ache in ways I didn't want to examine. "And Luca? We'll figure out custody, visitation, whatever works." He looked down at the photos. "I won't take him from you, but I won't be cut out of his life either. We'll find a balance. Balance. Shared custody, dividing time with our son between 2 separate lives." It made sense. It was rational. It was what co-parents did. I hated every word of it. "Okay," I said. Because what else could I say? Nicholas studied me. "You don't sound relieved." "I am. It's good news. The threat being eliminated. But nothing. It's what we agreed on. Stay until it's safe, then figure out what comes next." He set the tablet aside, leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Tell me what you're thinking." "I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I stopped. Started again. I thought I'd be happy when this was over. When Luca was safe. When we could leave. And you're not?" I met his eyes. "I don't know what I am." Silence stretched between us. Not uncomfortable. Just heavy with things neither of us knew how to say. "I think about you," I admitted finally. "All the time. For 15 months I've been thinking about you. Wondering if you were okay. If you'd moved on. If you hated me for leaving. I didn't hate you. I was angry. Hurt. But I never hated you. I was a coward. Running instead of talking to you. Instead of giving you the choice. You were scared. There's a difference. Is there?" I looked down at my hands. I told myself I was protecting Luca. And I was. But I was also protecting myself. From having to watch you leave every day not knowing if you'd come back. From having to explain to our son why his father's world is dangerous. From falling more in love with you when I knew it couldn't last. The confession hung in the air. Raw. True. Nicholas stood, crossed to my chair, knelt in front of me so we were eye level. "After you left," he said quietly, "I worked constantly. 18-hour days. 20 when I could manage it. Anything to avoid going home to the empty house where you used to be." "Nicholas, let me finish." I threw myself into business, into territory disputes and negotiations, and everything I could find to distract myself. And then one day, 6 months later, I was at a restaurant meeting with suppliers. A woman walked past. Brown hair, your height. For a second I thought, his voice roughened. I thought it was you. And when I realized it wasn't, I couldn't breathe. My throat tightened. After that, it kept happening. I'd see someone who looked like you from behind, or hear a laugh that sounded close, or smell your perfume on a stranger, and every time I'd look, every time I'd hope. He reached up, cupped my face gently. I never stopped looking for you, Samantha. Even after I forced myself to stop the official search. Even after I told myself you wanted to be gone. I kept looking. Tears burned behind my eyes. I didn't know. How could you? You were in Boston. Building a life. Having my son. Doing it all alone because I didn't create a world safe enough for you to stay. That's not fair. You didn't. It is fair. You were right to be scared. My world is dangerous. People die. I've lost friends. Family. I've been shot at more times than I can count. His thumb brushed my cheek. But if you'd stayed, I would have found a way. Reduced risk. Changed operations. Built something that could hold you and Luca both. You can't change your entire life for us. Why not? You changed yours for him. He had a point. That night, Nicholas continued, voice dropping lower. 15 months ago, after the deal with the Russians, when you sat with me, he stopped. That wasn't just physical for me. It wasn't for me either. Then what was it? I looked into his eyes. Dark. Intense. Waiting. It was everything, I whispered. It was every moment I'd spent watching you for 3 years. Every time you smiled at something I said. Every time you stood too close and I forgot how to breathe. It was real, Nicholas. More real than anything I'd ever felt. His hand tightened on my face. Then why did you run? Because loving you terrified me. Still terrifies me. Because I don't know how to be with someone whose life is constantly at risk. Because He kissed me. Not gentle. Not tentative. Desperate. And consuming and full of 15 months of missing each other. I gasped against his mouth. He took advantage. Deepening the kiss. His hands moved to my hair. My hands found his shoulders. Gripping. Pulling him closer. We broke apart, breathing hard. Was that real? Nicholas asked, voice rough. Or fear? Real, I said. God, so real. He kissed me again. Harder this time. I stood, pulling him with me. We crashed together, all the tension and longing and unspoken words translating into touch. He walked me backward until my legs hit the sofa. We fell onto it tangled together, his hands everywhere. Mine matching his urgency. Clothes disappeared. I didn't know how. Didn't care. All that mattered was skin on skin, his weight pressing me into the cushions. The sound of his breathing, the way he said my name like a prayer. We made love with 15 months of separation compressed into every movement. Urgent, intense, reconnecting in the most primal way possible. When it was over, we lay tangled together, my head on his chest, his arms wrapped around me, hearts hammering in sync. I never stopped loving you, I whispered into the silence. I left. I hid. I built a life without you, but I never stopped. His arms tightened. You're the only real thing in my life. You and Luca. Everything else is business. Territory, power, things that don't matter. But you... He pressed his lips to my hair. You matter. You've always mattered. I tilted my head back to look at him. What are we doing? I don't know. But I know I don't want you to leave. Nicholas, stay. Not because of the threat. Not because you have nowhere else to go. Stay because you want to. Because this, he gestured between us. Whatever this is, it's worth figuring out. I wanted to. God, I wanted to so badly it physically hurt. I'm scared, I admitted. So am I. But I'd rather be scared with you here than safe with you gone. He made it sound simple. Like love could outweigh danger. Like choosing each other was enough. Maybe it was. Okay, I said quietly. Okay? I'll stay. We'll figure it out. Together. His expression transformed. Not quite a smile. Something deeper. Relief and joy and disbelief all at once. He kissed me again. Softer this time. Gentler. Like he was sealing a promise. Upstairs, through the monitor on the table, Luca started making small waking up sounds. We both looked at the device, then at each other. We should... I started. Yeah, we should. But neither of us moved. Just stayed tangled together on the sofa in the library where everything had finally broken open between us, where we'd finally stopped running. 4 in the morning. I woke to silence that felt wrong. Too heavy. Too complete. Then the alarm screamed. I bolted upright, heart already racing. Luca started crying in his crib across the room. The emergency lights bathed everything in red. The door burst open. Nicholas stood there in tactical gear, a rifle in his hands. Blood streaked across his shirt. Not his blood. I could tell by the way he moved. Get Luca. Now. I didn't ask questions. Grabbed Luca from his crib, held him against my chest. He was screaming, terrified by the noise and the lights, and my fear bleeding into him. Nicholas crossed the room in 3 strides, took my arm, pulled us into the hallway. Gunfire erupted from somewhere below. Close. Too close. The sound made Luca shriek harder. This way. Nicholas moved fast, keeping his body between us and the stairs. 2 of his men appeared, flanking us. Weapons raised, eyes scanning. We went down a hallway I'd never noticed before. Nicholas pressed his palm against what looked like a blank wall. A panel slid open, revealing stairs leading down into darkness. Go. Fast. I went. Nicholas right behind me. The panel closed with a heavy metallic sound that felt final, like a coffin lid. The stairs were steep, concrete, lit by strips of emergency lighting. I held Luca tight, trying not to slip, trying to keep him from hitting the walls in the narrow space. At the bottom was a room, steel door, reinforced walls, a panic room. Of course Nicholas had a panic room. He opened it with a code punched so fast I couldn't follow, pushed us inside. The space was bigger than I expected. 15 by 20 feet. Monitors showing security feeds. Supplies stacked against one wall. A small bathroom in the corner. Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone except me or Dominic. Nicholas, what's happening? They're inside. 8 men, maybe more. They disabled part of the perimeter system. His jaw clenched. They're making their move. Another burst of gunfire above us. Closer than before. I heard shouting in a language that wasn't English. Nicholas pulled out his phone. Started barking orders in Italian, coordinating, commanding. His voice was cold, clinical. The voice of a man who'd done this before. Luca was still crying. Inconsolable. I bounced him, sang under my breath, tried everything. Nothing worked. He could feel my terror. Babies always knew. Nicholas ended the call, looked at us, at Luca screaming in my arms, at me shaking so hard my teeth chattered. He crossed the room, took Luca from me gently, held him against his chest, one large hand cradling his head. Shh, sweetheart. You're safe. I promise. You're safe. His voice was different with Luca. Soft, steady, anchoring. Luca's cries gradually decreased, turned into hiccuping sobs. Nicholas kept talking to him in Italian, rocking slightly, projecting calm he probably didn't feel. Above us, the gunfire intensified. Rapid bursts. Return fire from Nicholas's men. Shouting. The sounds of war happening directly over our heads. I wrapped my arms around myself. Tried to breathe. Tried not to imagine what was happening up there. Who was dying? Who would win? Nicholas handed Luca back to me. Our son had quieted, thumb in his mouth, eyes wide and wet. I need to coordinate from here. Watch the monitors. Direct my men. He pulled out a phone I'd never seen before. Encrypted, probably. Stay in this corner, away from the door. I did what he said. Sat on the floor in the corner furthest from the entrance. Held Luca. Whispered to him. Promised him things I wasn't sure I could deliver. Nicholas stood by the monitors, phone pressed to his ear. I watched him work. Watched him direct teams. Call out positions. Order flanking maneuvers. He was fighting a war from underground while covered in someone else's blood. 20 minutes passed. 30. The gunfire was constant at first. Then sporadic. Then isolated shots. Then silence. The silence was worse than the noise. Nicholas was still on the phone. His voice had gone quieter. More controlled. He was listening more than talking now. Finally, he lowered the phone. Looked at me. They neutralized 7 of them. The 8th is gone. Got out through the east perimeter before we could lock it down. Gone where? I don't know yet. But he's injured. Left a blood trail. We're tracking him now. He made more calls, gave more orders. I heard names, addresses, commands to mobilize teams across the city. Then Dominic's voice came through the phone. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw Nicholas's face change. Go hard. Cold. The leader? He said into the phone. Pause. You're sure? Pause. Send me the location. He ended the call. Stood there for a moment. Then he turned to me. The man who escaped is the cell leader, the one who ordered the surveillance on you, who sent the photos, who planned this attack. Where is he? Bleeding out in a warehouse in Brooklyn. My men have him cornered, but he's armed, desperate. He knows if we take him alive, he'll never see daylight again. I understood what he wasn't saying. Nicholas had to go. Had to finish this personally. Had to eliminate the threat permanently. How long will you be gone? I asked quietly. I don't know. 6 hours maybe. Maybe less. 6 hours of not knowing if he was coming back. Nicholas knelt in front of me, cupped my face with both hands. His eyes were dark, intense, full of promises he might not be able to keep. I will come back, he said. I will end this. And when I do, you and Luca will never have to be afraid again. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. He leaned in, pressed his forehead to mine. I love you. I should have said it before, in the library, after everything. But I'm saying it now. I love you, Samantha. I love our son, and I will do whatever it takes to keep you both safe. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I love you too. He kissed me, hard and desperate, and full of everything we might not get to say later. When he pulled back, his thumbs wiped away my tears. Dominic will be right outside this door. 4 other men are stationed at the access points. You don't open it for anyone except them or me. Understood? Yes. He touched Luca's head. His hand trembled slightly. Just enough for me to notice. Be good for your mama, sweetheart. I'll be back soon. Then he stood, checked his weapon, walked to the door, looked back once. I love you, he said again, like he needed me to hear it one more time. Like he needed to say it before walking into danger. Come back to us. Always. The door closed, locked, and I was alone with Luca in a concrete room, while Nicholas went to hunt the man who'd threatened our family. I sang to Luca, nursed him when he got hungry, changed his diaper, tried to maintain some semblance of normal routine in the most abnormal circumstances possible. The monitors showed the house, blood on marble floors, bullet holes in walls, bodies being moved out by men in tactical gear, the aftermath of violence. 1 hour passed, 2, 3. Dominic knocked on the door, spoke through it. Mrs. Wells, just checking in. Are you and the baby okay? We're fine. Any word from Nicholas? He's on site. Closing in. Should have an update soon. Soon. The word meant nothing, and everything. I paced the small space. Luca had finally fallen asleep, exhausted from crying. I laid him on a blanket on the floor. Watched his chest rise and fall. So innocent, so unaware that his father was out there fighting for our survival. 4 hours, 5. The phone on the wall rang. I jumped, grabbed it. Samantha, Dominic's voice. He's on his way back. ETA 20 minutes. He's injured but mobile. Injured. The word made my stomach drop. How bad? He didn't say, but he's conscious and walking. That's good. I waited. Counted every minute, every second. Luca woke up, fussed, went back to sleep. Finally, footsteps outside. The lock clicked. The door opened. Nicholas stood there, covered in blood. More than before. So much more. His shirt was torn, showing a gash across his ribs. Deep. Still bleeding. His face was pale, but his eyes were alive. It's over, he said, voice rough, exhausted. He's dead. The cell is eliminated. The threat is gone. I handed Luca to one of the guards who'd appeared behind Nicholas. Ran to him. He caught me, wincing, but holding tight. You're hurt. It's not bad. You're bleeding everywhere. I've had worse. I pulled back to look at him. Really look. The cut on his ribs was bad. The kind that needed stitches. Probably a lot of stitches. There were other cuts. bruises forming. Signs of a fight that had been brutal. You need a doctor. I need to make sure you're okay first. He touched my face. Are you? Is Luca? We're fine. We're safe. Because of you. His eyes closed briefly, relief flooding his expression. Good. That's all that matters. Dominic appeared in the doorway. Boss, medical team is upstairs. We need to get that looked at. Give me a minute. You're bleeding through your shirt. I said give me a minute. Dominic retreated. Nicholas pulled me closer, ignoring the blood and the pain and everything else. I meant what I said, he whispered against my hair. I love you, and now that this is over, we can figure out what comes next. Together. Together. The word felt like a promise. Like a future. Together. I repeated. He kissed me. Gentle this time. Careful of his injuries. Then he let me go. Picked up Luca from the guard who was holding him. Cradled our sleeping son against his chest. Let's go upstairs, he said. Let's go home. We climbed out of the panic room. Through the hallway. Up to the main floor. The house looked like a war zone. But it was over. The threat was eliminated. We were safe. Nicholas was stitched up in his office by a doctor who asked no questions. 17 stitches in his side, 5 in his shoulder, multiple contusions. But nothing life-threatening. Nothing that wouldn't heal. I sat beside him the entire time, holding his hand when he winced, watching the careful way they cleaned and closed the wounds. When it was done, when the doctor left, when we were finally alone, Nicholas pulled me onto his lap carefully. Mindful of his injuries. I kept my promise, he said. I came back. I knew you would. Did you? Yes. I touched his face, traced the line of his jaw. Because you're too stubborn to let anyone else win. He smiled. A real smile. Tired, but genuine. Stay, he said again. Not because you have to. Because you want to. Because we're good together. The three of us. I looked into his eyes. Saw the future there. Complicated. Dangerous sometimes. But real. True. Worth fighting for. Okay, I whispered. I'll stay. For how long? As long as you'll have me. That's forever then. Yeah, I said, leaning in to kiss him. Forever sounds about right. 3 weeks after the attack, Nicholas sat across from me at breakfast with papers spread between our coffee cups. Luca was in his bouncer, gnawing on a teething ring and watching us with serious dark eyes. It's done, Nicholas said, tapping one of the documents. The main triad faction agreed to terms. They disavow the rebel cell that came after us. We maintain our current territories. They stay in theirs. No expansion on either side. Just like that, they're fine with you killing their people? The people I killed were acting without authorization, freelancing. The main organization didn't sanction the attack on my family. He looked up. They're calling it an internal discipline issue. Officially, we're at peace. Peace. In Nicholas's world, that word was always temporary. Always conditional, but it was something. So it's really over? The threat is eliminated. The truce is signed. You and Luca are safe. He reached across the table, took my hand. We can start living instead of just surviving. I looked down at our joined hands. His thumb traced circles on my palm. A simple gesture that felt impossibly intimate after everything we'd been through. I need to call my sister, I said quietly. Ashley. She still thinks I'm in Europe. She probably thinks I'm dead or missing by now. Then call her. Today. Explain everything. She's going to be furious. Let her be furious. You're alive. That's what matters. I made the call that afternoon. Stood in Nicholas's office with my hand shaking while the phone rang. Ashley picked up on the second ring. Samantha? Oh my God, Samantha, is that really you? It's me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I disappeared. I can explain everything. You've been gone for over a year. I thought, her voice cracked. I thought something terrible happened to you. I kept calling. I kept trying to find you. Why didn't you answer? Because I was hiding from dangerous people. And I had a baby. Silence. Long and heavy. You what? I have a son. His name is Luca. He's 7 months old. And his father is... I looked at Nicholas standing by the window. His father is someone I used to work for. Someone complicated. Someone I love. I told her everything. About Nicholas, about running, about Boston, about the triad finding us, about coming back, about the attack. She cried, yelled, cried some more, then went quiet. "Where are you now?" she asked finally. "New York, with Nicholas. It's safe here. I want to meet him, and Luca. I want to see for myself that you're okay." "When?" "This weekend. I'm flying out Friday. You're not disappearing on me again, Samantha. Not ever again." Ashley arrived 3 days later. Nicholas sent a car to pick her up from the airport. She walked into the house looking exhausted and angry, and relieved all at once. Then she saw Luca in my arms, and her face crumpled. "Oh, Sam. He's beautiful. You want to hold him?" She took him carefully. Luca studied her with that serious expression he got from his father. Then he smiled. A big gummy smile that made Ashley start crying again. "He looks just like..." She glanced at Nicholas standing in the doorway. "He looks just like you." "Yes," Nicholas said simply. "He does." Ashley stayed for 3 days. Watched Nicholas with Luca. Watched us together. On the second night, she cornered me in the kitchen while Nicholas was giving Luca a bath. "He loves you," she said. "Really loves you. I can see it." "I know. And you love him." "Yes. His world is dangerous." "I know that too." She leaned against the counter. "Are you happy? Really happy?" I thought about it. About the fear and the violence and the constant threat. But also about Nicholas teaching Luca to hold his head up. About falling asleep together on the couch while our son napped between us. About the way Nicholas looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. "Yes," I said. "I'm happy. Then that's all that matters." When Ashley left, she hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. "Call me. Every week. Send pictures. Don't disappear again." "I won't. I promise." A week later, Nicholas found me in the garden. Luca was having tummy time on a blanket, trying to figure out how his arms worked. Nicholas sat down beside me on the bench. "I have a question," he said. "Okay. We've been living together for almost 2 months now. We have a son. He paused. "We've been together, but not officially together. And I want to change that." I looked at him. At the uncertainty in his expression. At the way his hands were clasped tight between his knees. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," he took a breath, "Samantha Wells, will you be my girlfriend?" I blinked, then laughed. I couldn't help it. "Did you just formally ask me to be your girlfriend? Like we're teenagers?" I know it's ridiculous, given everything. But I wanted to do it right. Ask properly instead of just assuming. The laughter died, because he was serious. This dangerous, powerful man was nervous about asking me to be his girlfriend. "Yes," I said softly. "Of course, yes." He smiled, genuine and relieved. Pulled me close and kissed me while Luca made happy baby sounds on the blanket beside us. Life settled into new rhythms after that. Nicholas restructured his operations. Started delegating more. Spent less time in dangerous meetings and more time working from home. He didn't abandon his world completely. Still took calls, still made decisions. But he was careful. Strategic about risk in ways he'd never been before. "I'm not trying to be someone I'm not," he explained one night. "But I don't need to be in the middle of every conflict anymore. I have people I trust. Let them handle the dangerous parts. Because of us. Because of you. Because of Luca. Because I want to be here. Alive. For all the moments I already missed." The scar on his ribs from the attack healed slowly. By 3 months it was pink and raised. By 5 it had faded to a thin white line. I traced it sometimes. A reminder of what he'd risked. What he'd survived. 6 months after that terrible night in the panic room, Nicholas took me to dinner. Alone. The first time we'd been out together without Luca. Maria watched him. Security was discreet but present. The restaurant was one Nicholas owned, so privacy was guaranteed. We talked about everything. About Luca's first tooth coming in. About how he was starting to babble. About plans for his first birthday. Normal couple things. Parent things. Dessert came. Chocolate something I didn't pay attention to because Nicholas pulled a small box from his jacket pocket and set it on the table. My heart stopped. Samantha. His voice was steady, but his hands weren't. I've thought about this moment for months, planned what I'd say. But now that we're here, all I can think is, he opened the box. A diamond ring caught the candlelight. Simple. Perfect. You're my empire. You and Luca. Not the territory. Not the power. Not the business. You. You're what I fight for. What I live for. What I want to protect for the rest of my life. Tears blurred my vision. I know my world is complicated. I know there will always be risk. But I swear to you, I will spend every day making sure you and Luca are safe, happy, loved. He took the ring out. Marry me. Be my wife. Let me be your husband. Let's build this family properly. Forever. Yes. The word came out choked. Yes. Absolutely yes. He slid the ring onto my finger. Stood. Pulled me up and kissed me while the entire restaurant watched. I didn't care. Let them watch. Let them see. We were getting married. The wedding happened 3 months later. Small, intimate, 50 people maximum. All vetted by security. All people we trusted. Ashley flew in 2 days early. Helped me pick flowers. Held Luca while I tried on the dress for the 20th time. Told me I was making the right choice, even though her big sister instincts probably screamed otherwise. The ceremony was in Nicholas's garden. The one I'd helped plan years ago when I was just his assistant. Now it was where we'd become husband and wife. Luca was just over a year old by then, walking with help, babbling constantly, wearing a tiny suit that made him look like a miniature version of his father. He was supposed to be the ring bearer. Instead, he sat down halfway down the aisle and refused to move until Nicholas came and picked him up. Everyone laughed. Nicholas carried our son to the altar, held him during the vows. Luca grabbed the officiant's tie at one point. Totally stole the show. I didn't care. All I saw was Nicholas. The way he looked at me in my white dress. The way he said his vows without breaking eye contact. The way he kissed me when it was over, like he'd been waiting his entire life for this moment. I love you, Mrs. Bellini. He whispered against my lips. I love you too. We danced, ate cake, celebrated with the people who mattered. And that night, after Luca was asleep and the guests had left, Nicholas carried me to bed and showed me exactly how much he meant those vows. 3 years later, life looked completely different. Luca was 4 years old, running through the mansion like he owned it, which technically he would someday. He spoke English and Italian fluently, knew the names of all the guards, had memorized escape routes Nicholas taught him through games. If the red light comes on, where do you go? Nicholas asked him one morning. The special stairs behind the bookshelf, Luca recited. Down to the safe room. I pressed the green button to lock it. Good. And who do you bring with you? Mama. And baby sister when she comes. Nicholas ruffled his hair. Perfect. Baby sister. I was 6 months pregnant. A girl this time. We'd already picked the name. Sophia, after Nicholas's grandmother. I stood in the kitchen doorway, watching them. My husband teaching our son how to survive his world, but doing it gently, making it a game instead of a trauma. Nicholas looked up, saw me watching, smiled, that genuine smile that only appeared for us. Come here, Bella. I walked over. He pulled me onto his lap carefully, mindful of my belly. Luca immediately climbed up too, squishing between us. We're having lunch in the garden, Nicholas announced. All of us. No work, no calls, just family. You hate taking time off. I hate missing moments more. Nearly 2 years after our wedding, those moments were what I measured life by. So we ate lunch outside. Luca ran around chasing butterflies. Nicholas's hand rested on my stomach, feeling Sophia kick. The sun was warm. The garden was in full bloom. Guards watched from discreet distances. Do you ever regret it? I asked quietly. Marrying me. Building this life. Nicholas looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Regret you? Never. Not for a single second. Even with all the complications. Especially with the complications. Because they gave me you. They gave me Luca. They're giving me Sophia. He kissed my temple. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Samantha. You and our children, this family, this life, all of it. Luca ran back to us. Dad, come play. In a minute, little one. Now, please. Nicholas laughed, stood, let our son drag him toward the flower beds. I watched them play. Watched Nicholas pretend to be scared when Luca roared like a dinosaur. Watched him scoop our son up and spin him until Luca shrieked with laughter. This was the man the city feared. The man who'd eliminated an entire triad cell to protect us. The man who still made people nervous when he walked into a room. But here, in our garden, with our son in his arms and our daughter growing inside me, he was just Nicholas. Just a father. Just a husband. Just mine. And I knew, without any doubt, that coming back had been the right choice. Running had been fear. Staying was love. Mama, Luca called. Come play with us. I stood, one hand on my belly. Walked over to my family. Nicholas caught my hand, pulled me close. I love you, he said. For the 1,000th time, like he'd never stop saying it. I love you too. Luca grabbed both our hands, pulled us deeper into the garden, into our life, into the future we were building together. Dangerous sometimes, complicated always, but ours. Completely and forever ours. The end.